Lost City is definitely lost in this game. Introduced between Frostbite Caves and Neon Mixtape Tour, two of the dirtiest worlds I know, this feels like a world that would feel at home in the first half of PvZ2, instead of the second half we are seeing now, where the quality is questionable to say the least, in most of them. And that reflects on the plants, where I'd argue that the ones introduced here are some of the most balanced ones introduced ever in the second half, which is a shame since we are only introducing 5 to 6 for each world now, like I complained in Frostbite Caves. But for all that, remember to like, sub and check my straw page for suggestions and donation spots.
Hey! Does your back hurt a lot from sitting on your chair? Does your desk look like it belongs in the landfill? Me too, which is why I had it in my bed. But you deserve better than me. You deserve a blacklight chair or desk, with a 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot and various products for your gaming setup, partnered with various creators and esports teams, like your one truly. You can trust they will bring quality to your office and give those final beautiful touches to make the perfect office setup or gaming setup to own the noobs in your favorite multiplayer game. And if you have trouble with shipping or got the wrong product, contact customer support through their website, email or even social medias about your order and they will make sure to resolve it as quickly as possible. Use code VERLUN15 for 15% off and use my affiliate links to support my channel down below in the description while getting you a nice discount. Now, back to the video.
Now, back to the video, I kinda want to see where the PvZ2 team, before they were just contractors, would go, with more plans and gimmicks to explore that they never got to implement, be it from PvZ1 or new, like a zombie that justifies bringing back Umbrella Leaf, for example. But today we shall look into the new plants that were actually introduced, starting with Red Stinger. This is just a cheaper repeater that does 5 less damage per projectile.
Actually, it is stronger than a double P shooter.
But with a twist. The closer to the zombie sides you plant it, Red Stinger loses firepower in place of becoming a better defense, until it becomes just a wall plant. The idea is generally good, if a bit power cramped, considering we are melting the function of 2 different plant archetypes into one, but the design does leave a lot to be desired, since its only smite users are in situations where you can't bring many plants, where it can double as a starting ranged one and an expensive wall, which never happens, making it just an interesting counter to shovel zombies from this world, since it will stall the horde behind them, more than any mere normal plant, and the one plant that can be safely used with escape route. As you can imagine, various conditions exist for this second scenario, and it is basically impossible to reach such a terrible plant composition, which spoils this plant's usability. I guess it just needed a few more minutes in the oven to find its niche. Imagine that if instead of being based on where you plant it, it was a manual plant and you manually close her state of attack or defense. And I don't like manual plants. But that would be way more interesting than what ends up being a repeater that can double as a weak walnut from time to time if it needs. Even then, I think it deserves a B tier. It's really close to an A, but it needs a standout ability or gimmick that doesn't feel that gimmicky. Even its plant food ability just feels like Laser Beam's laser, but now it continues for a bit instead of being half a second. A.K.E.E. What is this plant? I don't know, but it's one of the coolest plants introduced here, even if I don't know what it is, and most of the Plants vs Zombies 2 community forgets its existence. Apparently it's an African fruit in the Lost City world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It shoots one massive projectile that bounces over to the next zombie and eventually dissipates after 3 shots, with 60 damage per bounce at a 175 sun cost. This is pretty good mid-range catapult plant stuff. At least better than, you know, a certain pepper on fire. It serves as the offensive counter to the shovel zombie, outside of every catapult in existence. I don't think it works perfectly for that, especially when the game decides to release one next to the parasol zombie, the counter to A.K.E.E, due to her big blue parasol, but is vulnerable to any other non-catapult plant ever, which naturally means just use an actual piercing plant, not category, but the actual stuff like laser beam and lightning reed. Although because this world feels way more like the zombies are directly countering you, instead of the opposite, the fun in this world is trying out new plant combos, and through that you notice how well the plants from this world are designed in context, even if none actually become staples of your later teams. Unless you are a clown like me and just plant 3 rows of lightning reed or laser beam, obviously, to just ignore every encounter ever. The plant food is also way more creative than the normal catapult, remember, no Russian, shtick, as it instead throws a stronger version of its projectile and destroys as much as possible until it despawns on the 5 lanes. It may not be the best, but it's one of the most creative new plants in PvZ2, introduced since far future, even if it's just another catapult, and by far one of the better feeling also, even if its innovation may make it less consistent than its contemporaries most times. Even with that problem, I will give it an 8 tier. It could be even better if the projectiles didn't dissipate after 3 hits, but it extended for a few more by giving less damage, like a lane spanning spread, which would offset how slow it is. But as it is, it's still one of the best plant zombies to plants introduced in later worlds. Endurian. PvZ fusion? Nah, I present you the original fusion. Endurian is just Spikewall, and it's pretty good at it. For 1k toughness less than the original walnut, you get a passive plant that works well as a damage shipper, that even works perfectly retroactively to kill small animal zombies like the chickens. Now, those don't exist here, or in the rest of the game, but still nice and lets you replay those early levels with, I don't know, in PvZ1 it would be Marigold or whatever, but the developers here are so stingy that Marigold is locked to the Zen Garden. Besides that, it's a pretty standard nut that will protect your plants better than most gimmick walnuts, like Infinite or Shard Guard, after 3 leaves. It has a standard plant food ability for nuts, and a standard wall behavior with a spikeweed tapped onto it. I guess so. I will put it in high B tier. This is the first wall plant to do more than just be a wall, but it's still not the best they could do for one to be a genuinely great plant, especially when you can beat levels without using walnuts. A good way to make them great, for example, would be a snow wall that freezes zombies as it's eaten, or the pumpkin. Stallia. Better iceberg lettuce? Depends on how you want to use it. Instead of stunning just one zombie, it slows down a whole bunch of them. I don't think this is as useful as a setup plant that can also stop stronger zombies in its tracks, the niche of iceberg lettuce. Instead, it slows down all of them. So, the only good use of it is when a big horde is coming and your plants will be overwhelmed without the extra time to deal damage or to reinforce the defenses. The 3x3 area is generally good since it does become technically more cost effective than iceberg lettuce, but both are free at the end of the day, and slowdown can be worse than freezing one strong enemy if used poorly. Stallia doesn't replace it directly, but complements where iceberg lettuce can act without defaulting to the plant food. Although I can attest that, by experience, I use it way less than even Stallion, so in the end, I will give it a high B. Stallia could be more well thought of, like a 3-lane Stallion for 50 to 75 stuns, or even a stun shroom in style of ice shroom from the first game, but that starts the problem that PvZ2 is not designed for those interesting long-term plays, but instead quick reactive plays to clean up obstacles. Stallia in the end does shine a bit, since it is a free plant that is a time buyer in a game that likes to overwhelm the player. But in another, better PvZ game, it could have been in S tier, or even just a high A tier, at its full potential. Gold Leaf. What a shitty way to finish this plant collection. We had a low cost repeater that can turn into a wall, a cabbage pulled much with a bloomerang, but actually good, the one and only spike wall, which is a really cool idea that makes levels replays in previous worlds more interesting, and a good support to iceberg lettuce to fend the harder, hard-based parts of this game with some ease, and not wasting a plant food to the ice pan. And then we have this for 80 sun, because I guess we needed to start making stupid sun cuts to piss off the consistent multiples of 25. All this plant does is create the world's gimmick of a golden tile that gives 50 sun if a plant is there. In the other worlds that don't have it, as of now, the gimmick works as of now. The plant itself is fine, maybe, I never use it because, let's be real, we are not crying for suns in most of this game, especially by this point, unless you just need 5 winter melons next to your 10 citrons, and the 80 sun costs is really funny but also extremely inconvenient. Just make it 75 suns, please. Besides that, it only serves to get this world gimmick out of this world. Like I said, unless you played it when it was introduced because it was restricted to its home world, because this game is programmed by really funny people that didn't envision that maybe a spiritual successor to the Onion from Far Future might benefit from not being stuck in a place where the gimmick is abundant. I will give it a C tier though. It's a pretty cool idea that is just fucked beyond belief because someone wanted to meme on sun cost. And the sun production is not as bad here as it is in PvZ1, where this plant would feel more at home, since there you only have 3 sun plants and one is an evolution of the basic tutorial plant. And that is one of the best collections of PvZ2 plants after 5 Future. Even if they are a bit power crapped already, they still feel somewhat fresh and really interesting at points. After this world, the next one is Neon Mixtape Tour, which is a good try at an interesting world, even with some pretty funny and obvious failures in terms of design and pacing, but the plants on the other hand, tune in next time for some screaming from me due to fat bit existing. Don't forget to like, sub, check my other channels and my donation spot and straw page and all of that, and goodbye.